And this is Psalm 9, chapter 9, verses 9 to 20. And it says, "The Lord also will be a refuge for the oppressed." Well, we just heard some of that, didn't we? The Philistines had come against the Israelites, and they fought with the Philistines a lot. And here we see that God's people are crying out once more to the Lord. The Lord also will be a refuge for the oppressed, a refuge in times of trouble, and those who know your name will put their trust in you. So here it is again. It's all about putting your trust in God. Whatever you come against, whatever's going on in your life, you may be fighting against something on a medical level, on a physical level. There could be all manner of sufferings going on in your body. It could be something in your mental health. You could be so stressed with life and so stressed with all the things that are going on around you that you are not sleeping properly, that you are maybe even traumatized. Any of these things that will cause you to be at dis-ease, you have something going on, and a lot of this is quite normal in this kind of stressful modern environment that we live in. It doesn't seem to matter what you want to do these days. You have to have a password, you have to have a username, you have to have a code, you have to have authentication, you have to have all manner of things that it's very difficult to keep track of. It's very difficult to keep your to keep the lid on, if you like, and you just feel yourself getting so stressed, and all the other things that are going on around us, that all the red tape and all the bureaucracy that goes on, all the blame culture that we live in. You're frightened of even speaking. You can't even say anything in case you got something wrong, and it's a really difficult time we live in. We're in such an era of stress, and I believe it's going to get worse before maybe common sense and wisdom begins to kick in, so that we start to get more of a balance. People are so worried about security and so worried about being politically correct, following the crowd, or what the crowd says is politically correct. Never mind what God says is right, but we must be politically correct, and it gets so stressful because it's really hard to keep your tabs on what's going on in the world, and that causes us to feel overwhelmed sometimes. So if we're not actually at peace in our minds, we need to trust God. We need to go to God, because there is a lot of peace in trusting in God. Our minds can be calmed down, and our hearts will be strong if we can trust in God, if we can exercise our faith. And that's really what the psalmist says here. So no, it may not overcome every single thing that we have going in life, because there are things that we can do about our own situation, but it certainly will help, and it certainly is something very strong that the Christian can actually step into. So if someone has mental health issues, or they have physical sufferings going on, it's a resource. Our faith is a major resource for us to go to, not to discount, because some of us are professionals and we understand how the workings of the mind, and sometimes other people are in the medical profession and they understand the things in the medical profession, and quite often you can get so wrapped up in what you have learned, what you've been trained in, that you can then forget that God is also the physician of souls, that God also is the one who breathed life into us. God is the one who knows us intimately, completely, and we have a God we can trust in and rely on and go to. So it doesn't stop us from dealing with issues we have in our lives. It doesn't stop us from being inwardly transformed when we work through our stuff, and rather than being outwardly conformed to the world. But this is also part of being inwardly transformed, in that we use our faith as well. So we have weapons at our disposal too. We have the armour of God that we can put on, so that we can expel all the fiery darts of the evil one, all the people that slander us. When we have the armour of God, we have the shield of faith, and that prevents a lot of this stuff going in. So unfortunately, because we live in a world we're in the sense realm, and we sometimes our faith is a little bit weak, we tend not to step into this until some time has gone past and we've got even more stressed. But that's what the message is today, I believe. God is saying we need to trust in him for everything. And that's effectively what this psalmist is saying. He says in verse 12, when he avenges blood, he remembers them. He does not forget the cry of the humble. Have mercy on me, O Lord. Consider my trouble from those who hate me. You lift me up from the gates of death, that I may tell of your praise in the gates of the daughter of Zion, and I will rejoice in your salvation. So this is a very clear message from the psalmist saying, okay, we've got these problems, we know that you're going to be a refuge for us, and if we're oppressed in any way, shape or form, we know that we can come to you because you don't forget our cry. You will have mercy on us, and you will lift us up from the gates of death. It also says in verse 16, the Lord is known by the judgment he executes. So this is where, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. This is where that verse comes in a sense, because it says the Lord is known by the judgment he executes. Not our execution, not the fact that we execute people. It's not our job to worry about executing judgment on people. We don't have to be judgmental and critical. We can allow people to be judgmental and critical against us, and we just leave it with God, because God will repay. And that's what it says here. The wicked is snared in the work of his own hands. They're snared. They're making a rod for their own back. They're causing themselves to be judged by God. And so it's not for us to worry about that. We need to leave that with God. It's for those people to work through these issues with God. And it's not our problem. It's no longer our problem. When people come against us and are malicious, and when we have things coming against us, we have to trust in God. And it says here in verse 19, arise, O Lord, as if God was asleep. Is he asleep? I don't think so. Arise, O Lord, do not let man prevail. But it is actually calling on God. That's what it's saying. Don't let man prevail. I am actually serving you faithfully. I want to serve you. I love you. I want to follow your ways, and don't let man prevail against me in their evil ways and their evil deeds. Let the nations be judged in your sight. Never mind about political correctness. God, you will judge the earth according to your will and your wisdom and your knowledge and your understanding, and that may be way, way past our political correctness. So, we need to be a bit more careful about our political correctness, because it's not about following the crowd and what the general public think of something and the assessment that they make on something, and suddenly that becomes the law and the rule of this world. No, it's about what God says that we should be observing and what God says we should be doing in this life, not what people who think they can remake the will of God. It's just a nonsense, really. And obviously it comes from a heart that doesn't know God. When we're trying to be so politically correct that people's rights are being just usurped, and people's minority views, because they're Christians, are being discounted and put to one side because the political opinion of the day says something different. When you're standing for what God says in his word, then something's going drastically wrong in society. And I believe that's what's happening today. I think something is going drastically wrong in society, and we are following our own way, like a load of lost sheep. In fact, it's the blind leading the blind, and I suspect that most of us are going to fall into a pit if we don't stop following these people that think they know what they're doing.